And the internet also definitely has helped that. And because if you can reskin your avatar in Fortnite, why not do this? You own it, right? You can do whatever you want with it. Why not redo this and make it into whatever image you want? And you've been on chats for the last 20 years and been pretending that you're the opposite sex, the opposite race, whatever you want to do. You can pretend that. You can make an entirely different persona. Why not bring that into the meat space?
Okay. Yeah, I saw the term pop up in one of her, somebody reviewing her book, Meat Lego Gnosticism.
Yeah. that and cyborg theocracy are the two main terms. And that's really what it's all about. The idea that you can really just rearrange your bits and whatever. And, this concept, I guess it's all well and good that people can think about this, but also we're not there yet. In the podcast with Chris Williamson, he described what people are coming in to do when they want to, like say somebody that's going from female to male in a transition surgery type thing. And they have very specific views of what they want. He actually spoke to a doctor that performed some of these surgeries. And these people will come in and say, oh yeah, I have these different images that I got from the internet, and this is what I want my genitalia to look like, and he's trying to tell them, this is barely going to look like anything that a man has. That this is not going to be, we're not there yet. This isn't some crazy Star Trek future, where we can just rearrange atoms the way you like. And that's really the unfortunate thing is the pursuit of this is going to leave a lot of people damaged because we don't have the technology to do this in the way that people want it done.
Mm-hmm. So did she note that? So let's say the people who are most passionate about this happening, are they oblivious to the damage that's being done, or are they aware of it and just kind of going, well, that those are the eggs that need to be broken along the way to make this omelet?
She doesn't speak to it specifically in the book, but definitely that's the impression that I get is the latter. That it'd be like, well, because because people are doing this in other places as well. This isn't just in America or the UK. I mean, she gave an example, and this isn't necessarily a trans thing, but it's still awful. I can't remember where in India, but there's this place where there's a lot of good factory work to be had, but they don't hire women unless you've had a hysterectomy. Because they don't want to deal with the woman problems, and you might be out for a couple of days for this or that, and you might be having children, so I don't want to deal with that anymore. And so women are actually young women in their 20s, are going to get hysterectomies so that they can get work.
Wow.
And yeah, well, it's actually kind of the other point that she makes about hormonal birth control and transhumanism, and also just the way the economic systems of families work right now is, if you want to participate in that way, if you want to be the doctor or whatever, or anything, just go to college and everything, you must take a pill. If you want to participate in this, you are reliant on a piece of technology. It's chemical technology, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they want it seems to be okay to put people in this position where they are consumers for life to pharmaceuticals to arrange their meat labels and the way they want to. People transitioning are going to have to take those drugs forever for their, hormones and things like that.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's a lot of people don't fully grasp the idea that it's not just like a single medical intervention and it's all over. You're talking about a lifetime of surgeries, a lifetime of medicine, lifetime of issues popping up along the way based on hormones interacting with the body in a way that the body wasn't intended to have interacted with. I'm curious. So, one of the things that always kind of comes up is you hear from the women who say, "Well, yeah, I've decided I'm gonna have kids," and a lot of them talk about this idea where women kind of the career women kind of look down on them and saying, "Oh, you're not going to work. You're just going to stay home with your kids." Oh, does she get into any of that in terms of?
Yeah, I mean, she said, "I never became so lonely as when I decided to have a child." Like, because the amount of, she's like, I can't remember what city she's from in the UK, but she's like, I live in this small city, and I have the baby in the pram walking down the park, and there's no one. It's this, it's so awful, and and she says it exactly happens that way, where you're talking to somebody and they're like, what do you do? Oh, well, I'm just being mom right now. And they'll just leave you. They'll ghost you immediately at the cocktail party if they don't want to, because it's, I guess, unseemly to just be a mother and, wanting to be there for your babies and stuff like that. It happens in every large Western city in the world, whether it be in America or Europe, it seems. Not Eastern Europe. Maybe it's cooler there. I don't know.
Yeah, for reasons that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. I know that the Eastern Bloc countries, when the Soviet Union was still standing, they very much pushed, birth control in a very, in a very high level, which seems very odd because it seemed like their long understanding of how they do everything was, the swarming masses of workers and the swarming masses of soldiers, and if you keep talking people into not having babies, you don't have swarming masses anymore. I wonder how much of it was them essentially being short-sighted and saying, okay, well, right now it's more important that we have more workers. So we need to not have women sitting at home having babies. We need to have women in the factories and in the other outlets, basically keeping production up so things will keep running.
Well, yes, and I think it was just being short-sighted, 100%, because there's a lot of ideology also wrapped up in it. There were definitely feminists in America pointing to the Soviet Union and saying, "Look, those women get to do, just work with the men." And obviously they were also left-leaning as well, the feminists that were making that. But there was definitely an ideology of like, "Oh no, women are comrades, just like the men," and they were doing some of their own kind of flattening of the sexes just through communism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because they had a definite ideology in terms of they wanted to undermine the family as the primary unit so that they didn't have competition against the state. So, I mean, obviously, that's kind of things we've been talking about. Is how much of this is? I'm just wondering if she gets into this at all. Is how much of this is organic feminism versus how much of it is, even not necessarily a planned Marxist idea, if not like a latent Marxist idea. If this is more if there's a thought process aiming this at the family as much as aiming this at the idea of equalizing women.
I don't believe so. She definitely comes from this from the perspective of her viewpoint of how feminism has gotten to the point that it has, and the overall thing on that, and just I guess it does a little bit go into it because she definitely describes the people that were going through the freedom side of feminism as the bougie feminists. This is very much in Harrington's mind. This is a class thing, but it just so happens that the the communists that were trying to create the classless society and the bougie feminists of America just happen to intersect in the same goals. But I don't think she views it as any kind of communist plot.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean it in a paranoid sort of way because, I tend to look at all movements as being, it's a joining of forces where a whole bunch of different people all have a different reason for why they want to do it, but all say, hey, let's all do this because it makes sense to get us to the goal we're aiming for. And
right.
So it just seems now the whole because just looking up the definition of third wave feminism, most of the basically I just looked through several different left-leaning journals, and overwhelmingly the word intersectionality comes up immediately describing the third wave movement. And it's kind of interesting where that, if that organically came up in the feminist movement, or if that stuff that's been transplanted from Marxist circles who are actually because that's one of their big stepping stones is if we can't move the society the way we need to, it needs to be moved culturally then, and intersectionality is one of the methodologies of doing it.